Welcome to Evolutionary Men, where we learn to lead in life and love with head, heart, and guts. This is for men wanting to deepen their presence in the world, clarify their purpose, more easily connect with their power, and find ease in dating and relationships. I'm your host, Jason Lang. Let's get started. Hey guys, we'll get started here in just 1 second, but I wanted to tell you about 2 opportunities coming up this year to actually do the work in person. So if you've been wanting to check out some men's work, get involved with a men's group, do some embodiment practices, and really just come alive as a man, make some pretty significant shifts in your life, I have 2 opportunities coming up this year I'd highly suggest checking out. First, I have my annual retreat happening over Labor Day this year. So that's August 31st through September 4th in Northern California. And this is going to be a 4-day event at a beautiful retreat center where we're going to go super deep, me, my co-facilitator, and 24 men on a beautiful property. And we're going to dig in. We're going to do masculine practice, feminine practice, meditation, qigong, shadow work, small group work, and we're also just going to have a lot of fun. So if you've been itching to get out into a beautiful location and spend some time with other men, just head on over to evolutionary.men/retreat to check that out. Then, on top of that, I have the second iteration of our Heart of Shadow program starting September 5th and running through November. The Heart of Shadow is a 9-week virtual program that has a 3.5-day retreat smack dab in the middle. And this program's all about shadow work. This is about going into those parts of ourselves that are scary, shut down, hidden, whatever it might be. And we go in with love, with levity, and with the strong support of men to make some pretty significant breakthroughs in our body-mind and often release a lot of emotional tension or trauma or spiritual angst. Our first one earlier this year was a smashing success, and the guys are still meeting to this day. If you're wanting a men's group, this is an amazing opportunity because you are going to get to know the men in this program. It's just 12 guys at an incredibly deep level. And these will be men you can reach for and turn towards for the rest of your life. And you'll be able to unravel some of the deepest core level wounding in your body in this powerful container. You can learn more about that virtual program and its included retreat at heartofshadow.com, or you can check out both of these under the events tab of my site. All right, let's dive in. All right, and welcome back. So today I want to talk about leading with vulnerability. Vulnerability is a pretty big buzzword these days and over the last couple of years, and rightly so. It's a really powerful concept that can be absolutely life-changing. For us men in particular, it can actually be kind of a muddled gray space in that oftentimes we wonder, how vulnerable should I be? Am I being too vulnerable? Should I be tough? Should I hold back? What does this all mean? And particularly when it comes into intimate relationships with feminine partners, there's often a question of, my woman often says she wants me to be more vulnerable, but then does she really? And what happens when I actually am? And digging into all this, I think the first and most important place to start is, what do we mean by vulnerability? There's a lot of different ways to take that. And how I teach men I work with is I say vulnerability is authenticity plus risk. So authenticity, meaning the truth in the moment, your truth in the moment as it's being revealed to you in real time. Here's what's true for me. Here's what's honest for me. And then risk, meaning there has to be something at stake for it to be vulnerable. It's not vulnerable for me to say, oh, it's 86 degrees out today and it's 12:11 p.m. or whatever it might be. That's authentic. That's the truth of my experience right now, but there's no risk involved. So it's not necessarily vulnerable. So vulnerability is the sweet spot of when we're revealing the truth inside us in the moment, and there's some kind of risk involved of, and I don't know how this is going to be received, right? I don't actually know how this is going to be received by the person across from me. And it's that vulnerability, that essence, that opening of taking that risk that makes it so powerful. Now, there's also another kind of frame for vulnerability, which is often, I think, what women and the feminine are speaking to when they say they want their man to be more vulnerable. And that's really just the capacity to feel. So, your capacity to be open to and be with your experience, particularly your emotional one. A lot of us men have been cultured to be disconnected from our emotions, to be disconnected from our bodies. Everything we're taught is that you got to be tough, don't show weakness, work harder, push forward. We're pretty much rewarded for being disconnected from our bodies, from being disconnected from our feelings in a lot of ways. And so we don't necessarily have a deep capacity to feel and be actually with our experience in the moment. Now, the alternative to this, right, when we don't have that capacity to feel, when we haven't cultivated this type of vulnerability, is often we're numbed out or we're gripped, right? So we're numbed out, meaning we are totally disconnected from our inner experience and sometimes even our bodies. We don't even know what's going on inside of us. And this can be pretty distressing to partners sometimes, or people in our lives, when they can get a sense that something's going on for us, but we're just not even willing to admit it, or we don't have the capacity to notice it or feel it in the moment. Then there's the gripping itself, which means we're just totally braced, right? Or totally wound up inside of something, which might seem like it's actually being with it, but it actually isn't. The type of vulnerability of feeling I'm talking about requires a certain openness in our body to actually be fully with the sensations and experience inside our body. When we're gripped, we're not relaxed, we're braced. We're actually fighting against or trying not to feel something a lot of times. So while we might be getting agitated or angry, often what we're gripped against is fear or shame or sadness. And I think it's often the case that what a lot of women are talking about when they say they want their man to be more vulnerable is they want to feel him feeling. That's it. That doesn't mean sharing everything necessarily. And that's kind of where we're going to dive into next, of where sometimes vulnerability can actually be a problem. And there's a way that if you haven't really explored these definitions or you don't think about it, men, hear this thing like, we need to be more vulnerable. And they take that as, well, I need to share everything. I need to share my whole experience. I need to just be totally transparent with my partner. Now, while there's a time and place for that, and it can be useful, that kind of sharing isn't really what we're talking about. What that often leads to is processing, just kind of laying it all out there like you're talking to a therapist and saying, here's all my stuff, right? And in romantic relationship in particular, that's not super compatible with attraction and erotic friction and desire. And for feminine partners in particular, if they feel us men kind of saying, hey, hold this, can you take this? I don't know what to do, meaning we're either gripped or we're collapsed around whatever we're feeling, meaning we're unable to feel our feet on the ground and be able to take meaningful action. So collapse just means, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. This is so hard. Or, whatever that might be. There's a feeling of I'm like totally collapsed in it. That's often not super attractive. And that can often be exhausting to our partners. And that's where vulnerability often doesn't work when we bring it into relationship. Because women in particular sometimes don't know what to do with a man in this collapsed, vulnerable state. Well, does he want me to fix it for him? Does he want me to mother him? Like, I'm not sure. And that can cause a lot of problems. Now, the alternative is being able to bring the truth of your experience, bringing that authenticity, bringing that risk, being able to be open and fully in touch with and actually feeling the emotions or sensations in our body. So these are physical sensations, of which emotions are basically just that. They are physical sensations too. They start a sensation in our body and our ability to just be with that. Yeah, I'm feeling sad. When we have that, capacity to be in our experience, but not collapsed in it or fused with it, and we're surrounded by a support network. This is a key thing, meaning our partner or whoever we're sharing with can feel that we are plugged into a larger system. There is a larger context that we are being held in through therapy, coaching, counseling, men's groups, friends, family, church, community, you name it. Meaning, there's other places for me to bring this. You're not the only one that's having to hold this all for me. It's a totally different experience. And then when we marry that with some kind of plan forward, right? We're in process around whatever it is. It doesn't come across as collapsed, doesn't come across as needy, and it doesn't come across as I need you to fix this. It comes across much lighter, much more like here's my experience. It's hard. I'm handling it and I'm trying to figure it out. And yeah, sometimes that may then involve, and here's how you can help, or here's how you could support me. But notice that supporting me is a totally different energetic from fixing me or figuring it out. Supporting means there's a system in place and you're just going to be another part of that, but you're not going to be the entirety of that. When we mix all of that together, and then we add this other magical ingredient here, which is, can we bottom line it? Meaning, can we share the truth of our heart in the most succinct, deep way possible? When we can do that, particularly with feminine partners, it does not come across as weak. It does not come across as collapsed. It comes across as powerful and clear and aware. And what I mean by that is it can be really easy if we're having a hard time or if we're really worked up to come in and just unload on our partner, right? You've maybe had this experience, not even with an intimate partner, but someone who just kind of unloads their emotional stuff all over you. And it doesn't necessarily feel good. It can often be fast paced, long winded, hard to get a word in against it or through it. That's not what I'm talking about here. Instead, I'm talking about the ability, which requires us as men to attune to ourselves at the deepest level, to slow down and to feel the deepest truth of whatever's going on for us. So for me, one example of this bottom lining was, probably 5 or 6 years ago. I had just transitioned full time into men's work and coaching from a variety of other different careers. And Foolishly, at the time, I decided to burn the bridges. I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do both. I'm just going to go all in on the coaching and let go of all my other work. Turns out it took a lot more time and energy to build a sustainable, robust coaching practice than I ever anticipated. So my first year was tough. I'm talking like seat of the pants, down to the wire. How am I going to pay rent? Oftentimes, just after getting married about a year before and knowing we wanted to have a kid on the horizon, it was dark. It was hard. It was stressful and pretty deep into it at one point. I realized I needed to make some changes and that some things were going to have to shift. And I was thankfully well supported by a number of incredible men in my life and a therapist I was seeing at the time. So I had some plans. I was working on it. I know, and my partner knows, what I do in stress is I withdraw. I just disappear. I go away. And so I was pretty stressed out, even though I was working on this stuff. I was very stressed out. And just my default natural behavior was to kind of hold that all inside and just kind of grit my teeth and get it done, like so many men. But that freaked my partner out. She had no idea what was going on with me. She did not feel connected to me. And she genuinely kind of felt afraid of like, what is going on? Does he have a plan? What's going to happen here? And so we were sitting down once. I remember exactly where we were at the kitchen table, kind of catty corner across from each other. And it became clear, I got to open up here. I got to bring it. And so I took a couple deep breaths. It's kind of just sat with myself a little bit. And, I looked her in the eye and I was just like, yeah, right now in my life, it just feels like I'm losing everywhere. And I want to be winning. And it really hurts. And it's really hard. And I'm trying to figure it out. And just that, 2 or 3 sentences, that's what I mean by bottom lining it. Those 2 or 3 sentences, her whole body relaxed. She felt let into my world. She knew what was going on inside of me now. And she felt closer to me. And I felt closer to her. And then we had a little discussion beyond that. But I didn't unload it all on her. I didn't share in a panicked way, like I'm freaked out. I don't know how I'm going to do this or this or this. I just brought that depth. This is the truth of my experience. And I'm trying to figure it out. That less is more, that bottom lining is one of the key ingredients when it comes to us being able to bring vulnerability powerfully as masculine leaders. When we can really bring it into its purest essence, there's often not a lot there. And for a lot of us men, honestly, it does often come down to, I feel like I'm losing and I want to be winning. So often the case with us. But there's all kinds of other ways we can bottom line things. And it takes practice. And it's one of the things I love about men's groups is what you can do in a men's group is you can bring the sloppy, unworked out, I don't know what's going on. I just got to get stuff off my chest. I'm gripped, I'm numbed out, whatever. And you can unload because it's a consensual container, a men's group. You can just release, let it go. And in that process, that clarity will start to come, that depth, that sharpening. Reflections from other men will support that. And you can kind of make your way down to the root of it and get that nugget, that 2 to 3 sentence nugget that you can bring back, that you can bring back into your life and bring back to your partner in a way that you can then lead with this type of vulnerability that will open and connect. So that brings us to, what do I actually mean by leading with vulnerability? Leading with vulnerability is such a powerful thing. And what it actually means is your capacity to open and bring depth to a relational interaction. This often involves us going first as men. This is another type of bottom lining and of rock bottoming in it, of there's a lot of different things our attention could be on right now. There's a lot of different places our conversation would go, but I'm going to feel into what would bring us closer, what would open the connection between the two of us, what type of depth can I bring here that would really change how we're relating in the moment. And that leading with vulnerability often means we step into the space of bringing that authenticity and risk, being able to own our experience, own the truth of our bodies in this succinct way while we have the support network around us. And we just lay it out. Here's what's going on for me. And us going first, it actually creates a space. It creates a relational space that then invites, but doesn't demand, the other person to step into it as well. And I've been leading men's groups for many years now, and I've seen this hundreds of times. This is the power of maybe it's a new group or some new members feeling each other out, or hell, even groups that have been meeting for a long time and just kind of habitually float back up into the surface level. But all it takes is one person to bring their vulnerability, to really just go for it, to be authentic, to be real, and to take a risk to reveal the truth of their life, their heart, whatever's going on in this deep masculine way we've been talking about. And what it does is it radically opens the space and often gives other people permission to then step in with their vulnerability. And then it becomes just this beautiful, deepening swirl where every time one man steps in, it allows everyone to step in even deeper. And that is the power of leading with vulnerability. It's bringing your truth and taking that risk and going for it, even when there's no guaranteed outcome, even when you don't know how it's going to be received. And that's what makes it powerful. That's what makes it leadership. That's what makes it about saying, hey, let's take this conversation to another level. Let's not hold back. Let's not play on the surface. Let's really do this. And as men, as we cultivate this ability, which takes time, takes practice, takes being around other men, takes increasing our emotional intelligence, takes increasing our ability to attune to ourselves, our own interoception, our ability to know our inner world, and then to be with it through a well-regulated nervous system. As we can do that, as we can bring that, it leads us to a place of deep freedom as men. And it's that freedom that is so engaging and attractive and enticing to other human beings. Our ability to just go in and be with our emotional experience, not collapse into it or posture against it, but to just fluidly be with it, allows us to move freely through our inner world and the outer world. A man who is gripped, right, who is lost or fused in his emotional experience, who is collapsed in his emotional experience, who is numbed out to his emotional experience, is not free. And that's another part of, I think, oftentimes what women and feminine partners are reflecting to men when they say, I wish you were more vulnerable. They're kind of saying is, I can feel you're not free. You're gripped by something here. What is it? Can you be with it? Can you share it? Can you hold it lightly? Whatever that might be. When we're gripped, we're not particularly fun to be around as men. And that gripping often involves a tightening of our body and all of our attention and focus going into our own thoughts, right? That endless ruminating loop. When we're ruminating and looping on ourselves, it doesn't really create a lot of room for connection with other. So vulnerability is an incredibly powerful thing for us men to learn, to bring into life, and to lead with, to cultivate in our relationships, in our families, with our coworkers, wherever it might be. It's that ability to really open others, right? When we can really be with our experience and we're saying, hey, here's my truth, it's inviting someone else to bring their truth. And there is nothing quite as powerful as feeling another human being open near you, right? With you, actually open to their experience by us being with our emotions in this powerful way, this vulnerable way we've been talking about. We're inviting others to do the same inside themselves. And this is where it's almost like a contagion in groups. As we get vulnerable, as we get real, there's like a relaxation, a big exhale I often see through groups as everyone sinks into, oh, here I can just be. I don't have to bullshit. I don't have to pretend. I just get to be and reveal what is. And that's a powerful thing. When you can be a man who leads with vulnerability and opens and brings depth to the moment, you're making a massive impact in the world. Just your presence alone doing that changes the world. Your freedom in your body and your experience brings freedom to all those you interact with in this way. And who doesn't want to be a little bit more free, a little bit more open, able to receive and give even more love? I know it's something I'm definitely working on every single day. And it's hard. Some days are a win, some days are a loss. Some days, somewhere in the middle. But always this idea of, hey, it's better to lead with vulnerability and be the one to open the space, to open the relationship, to deepen it to another level than to not. And you won't be forgotten if you're the one that brings that to any interaction. Until next time. If you want to experience a men's group and the power of men's work with me, you can join one of my drop-in men's groups at evolutionary.men/events. And if you want to go the full distance to cultivate a powerful presence to learn to lead in life and love, check out my free training at evolutionary.men/webinar. Until next time.